everyone. Welcome to my show, CurryUp Leadership Podcast, a podcast to spotlight purpose-driven Asian leaders making an impact. This is your host, Priyanka Kumla, joining you on our 109th episode of CurryUp Leadership Podcast. Again, super excited to continue the momentum to inspire you with a lot of candid stories. And I have a fabulous guest waiting for us from Denmark. Before we get started, a quick reminder to follow me, Priyanka Komla, and a CurryUp Leadership Podcast page on LinkedIn to receive our LinkedIn live notifications as we broadcast every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time across the globe. And if you're following this on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe. To all our podcast lovers who can find this podcast on any podcast streaming platform, give us a review, rating, follow, so we understand how this podcast is helping you become a better version of yourself. Without further ado, I'm going to say hello to my fabulous guest who's joining us from Denmark, Shivalee Duduskar. Hi, Shivalee. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Priyanka. Thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure having you on the show, Shivalee. And to our listeners, what's the core topic of today's episode? Well, Shivalee has a very interesting background. She's just submitted her PhD. She started a postdoc research, but she has an amazing, inspiring story. And let me tell you what that is. From Satara in Pune to Kolhapur, where she did her master's, all the way to Germany and now in Denmark, she has an interesting globetrotter journey as she's followed her path to a PhD. So, Shivalee, you're someone whom, I feel very inspired because you dreamt of flying an airplane. But you know what? Shivalee's dreams took wings, and today, as a biotechnologist, after embracing failures, she's helping others fly towards their dreams of doing a PhD. She's a PhD in immunology from Friedrich Schiller University of Jena, Germany. She's currently working as a postdoc in the Department of Biomedicine, Aarhus University, Denmark. And she works in the area of innate human immune signaling activated by various foreign invaders as bacteria and viruses. She makes an effort to understand the signaling pathway activated for the release of cytokines and chemokines. Well, that's a lot of science behind it, and it reminds me of my biology back in my high school days, given I'm completely into the tech field. But you know what? Another interesting aspect of Shivalee is that during a PhD, she developed a keen interest in conveying her research through graphical abstracts and various illustrations. Well, she's an amazing science communicator, which I think all of us can embrace to make science more accessible, more easy to understand for lay people like us. And something that I realized that Shivalee does outside of PhD is she was a district level sprinter and she loves skating and swimming. See, so you can do all things outside of PhD to be a holistic individual. So in today's episode, we're going to debunk two things. One is, how does the path to a PhD look like? What are some trials and turbulences, some triumphs that you can encounter, and look at how successful Shivalee is today. And then the second aspect being the fun side of Shivalee, which I'm going to unveil a little more in depth. So Shivalee, are you ready for it?
Yes, thank you so much for this amazing introduction. I'm a little overwhelmed by this, but yeah, really, thank you so much for having me here again.
Thank you, Shivalee. So let's talk about your journey, from Satara in Pune to where you are today in Denmark. When you look back at your life, what's one thing that you feel that has helped you become so successful?
I think it was resilience and the clarity of the goal, what I had. So initially after my 12th, that is where I flunked the exam of being an aeronautical engineer. And first it was of flying planes and being a pilot, but then due to my habits, like watching TV continuously, I got spectacles and then that dream failed. But then I thought that it was not pilot, so let me repair the aeroplanes and let me be aeronautical engineer. So I flunked this exam after 12th, and then it was like a dark journey for me then, because most of my friends were doing engineering and pursuing their path of being an engineer. And so that is when all the suggestions from people started coming in. Oh, do a law, or maybe just get one degree, it will not change anything. But I have a background, like my grandfather was a scientist. He did his PhD from University of Pennsylvania, USA. And he was a Dean of Agriculture College in Pune and Kolhapur. And he also established a university called as Rahuri Vidyapit in Ahmednagar. yeah, Maharashtra. And then so I had this background, and then my dad thought that I must be the best fit of walking this path ahead, like pursuing a biotechnology degree. So the Department of Biotechnology had just established in Satara. I was in the first batch of this department. So my dad just brought me a prospectus, and initially I was not interested in it, and because I had this baggage of I had to leave my dream and then walk on completely different path. But as I started studying it, I really enjoyed, like there are so many mechanisms happening inside a single cell which you cannot even see with naked eyes. You need a microscope to see it, and that was really fascinating for me, and that developed an interest, like doing research again. And so in the course of my bachelor's, I did a lot of extracurricular activities like youth festival, where I discovered my side in drama and one act plays and declamation and debate competitions. So that also helped me to keep engaging, like it was not only exams but some extracurricular activities which can help me focus on my dreams. And my dad was the person who always somehow in some other way used to push, like, oh, you have to pursue a PhD and walk that path of your grandfather, and that too from abroad. So I did my bachelor's. I stood first in the bachelor's, and then I did my master's from Shivaji University Kolhapur. After 2 years of master's, I started applying for PhD positions. Then I received again rejections. Like I have almost 30 rejections till now in my PhD application. And Priyanka, back then, if you remember your journey as well, there were a lot of consultancies, or there were a lot of people who can support you in getting a master's. But for PhD, and that too pursuing it abroad, there was like I was clueless there, because I had to run to so many of the alumni and so many of the people who have applied for PhD programs. And I remember going to my relatives, and we going to some person they knew and talking like, how can I move forward? So then I realized that my research experience really lacked. And that is when I applied for a traineeship before in ACTRAC, which is Advanced Center for Treatment, Research and Cancer in Mumbai. uh, After doing 6 months of unpaid traineeship, I got a junior research fellow position there. And then I was still applying. And then I got selected to the summer school program in Jena. And I came to Germany for a month. I did all these rotations, and then I got a PhD program. So it was a roller coaster ride. It was not a straight path. I had to take turns and tumbles, but I finally achieved what I wanted to.
Look, your dreams took flight, and here you are landed successfully after your takeoff.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, that's such an amazing story, Shivali. So when you look back, a couple of things that, really got my attention was, I love the fact that you own a pair of spectacles, because I own it too. As studious kids,
Yeah.
having glasses while you're growing up, it's such a fun pet peeve. So yeah, so that was very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So the point that I was trying to make is the lack of role models in the Indian society, especially when you're pursuing bigger dreams like a PhD, that's very hard. And I think that's an ongoing challenge. And I'm so glad you've started your Path to PhD program as a way to give back to the community, to help
Yeah.
people understand, hey, this is the roadmap on how you handle a PhD. And people looking at you, knowing that you've successfully aced it, that's such an inspiring story. So kudos to you on starting the Path to PhD program.
Thank you so much. And this was the intention behind that, because looking back, like 5 years back, the Shivali was confused, like what to do, what should be in your application. And she always thought that PhD is only the thing what she wanted, but your life is more than your PhD. Your PhD is not everything. So most of, like, maybe Asian women's or Asian students, they also focus on the fact that, oh, if I have a degree, then that defines me, but that doesn't define you. You have a life outside that which will define you. PhD is just a part of your life. You should not, give away everything for that. We really struggle hard and work hard to get a degree. And then at the end, we realize that, oh, we have lost so many special moments in your life, that that you could have did something else with that. So this is also um, and this is the mindset which I'm trying to set in the students. Like, there are so much of confusion related to PhD. Oh, you must write 20 pages of research proposals. No, PhD is a path where you learn things. You should not be all know-it-all kind of girl. Like, that is the when you are a capable PhD students. PhD is all about learning new techniques and adding those skill set in your CV and walking forward. It is like picking up stars or picking up apples, putting them in your a backpack and then walk the road. It never has to be that you have to be a brilliant and you have to know everything to walk the path of a PhD.
That's a great example where you're showing that PhD is approachable. You don't have to fit a certain profile. You don't have
Yeah.
to be in a certain stereotype in order to achieve this kind of a dream. And I think this is a wonderful piece of wisdom, which I would, encourage all our listeners to, note it down. Your identity is beyond your degree. And that's something that we have to remind ourselves every
Yes.
time as our identity shifts through our phases of life.
Yeah, that's definitely a fact. That because most of us think that, oh, I have a PhD, that is when you stand out of the crowd. Yes, you do that because you have worked hard for achieving that degree, but that shouldn't be all. You should have your personality behind it, or your mindset should be in such a way that will define you, not your degree.
Right. So let's talk about job search during the COVID pandemic. We all have focused on a lot of negative news about job losses because of COVID pandemic, but Shivali has an interesting story where she found her job in Denmark in December in the peak of COVID and how she was chilling around after she aced her job interview. So tell us about that experience and what advice you can give to our listeners on finding their next big role.
Yeah, so after I submitted my PhD, I was looking for postdocs because I was very clear that I wanted a postdoc and I did not want to shift to industry so soon, maybe in future, but not so soon. And my plan was to go to the States and apply for a postdoc there. But due to this pandemic, I wasn't able to get a visa. And so my application was not been entertained there. So I started applying in Europe. And the lab which I'm working on is one of the renowned lab in my field, and I wanted this position. So this is a fun story where I was been called for the interview, and the pandemic was really high at that point in Europe because there were a lot of COVID patients here. And now this is like a reveal, but my parents had restricted me from traveling and going to the interview because they were scared, of course. But I still traveled, and I was in Denmark for 2 days, and I came here. I gave the interview in the morning, and then it was a presentation. So the interview was basically what I did when my PhD, what all research I did so I presented that. And then the professor told me that, okay, I'll inform you in a couple of days, and then we'll see. And so I had 2 interviews, and the next interview was the next day. But then after 1 hour, I was just roaming around the city trying to, because it was a new country for me. I had never been to Denmark before. And then suddenly I got an email saying that I'm being hired, and they loved my presentation and I'm a good fit for their lab. And then it was an exciting situation because I didn't knew that the reply would be so fast. So
So
it
when
was
you
kind
look
of
back,
exciting.
thank you for sharing that. So when you look back at that experience, what is one thing that made you stand out successfully as a candidate during that interview process?
I think I was authentic enough to tell my story and to accept my shortcomings as well. That yes, I'm an expert in certain kind of area in my field, but I lack this amount of skills. So this is the platform where I can enhance these skills as well. So being yourself and being authentic is really important. Always about boosting your skills and saying that, oh, I can do this and I can do that and I can handle so many patients and I can handle so many of experiments. But it is knowing what your strengths and weaknesses as well are. And because postdoc is like a training to be a professor if you want to stay in academic. And if you know it all, then again it's a problem, because the lab, it's a give and take relationship also, right? If you're giving some skills and giving some hours to the lab, then the lab in turn has to make you successful or train you in such a way that you learn some other part of the skills.
So, what advice would you have for job aspirants, people who have lost jobs, people who are trying to find jobs during this pandemic?
Don't lose hope and be patient, because this is what I was doing, and I'm a really impatient person in that case, and I really had to try being patient, because it was very difficult getting a job in this pandemic, like right from searching for an open positions, making this Excel sheet where you have to apply, changing the SOPs or tailoring the SOPs for each positions, open position of a postdoc. Just be consistent in doing that and don't lose hope. This is what I would say, because the skill sets anyone can have, but what makes you stand out is the mindset and what you present in the interview.
So let's talk about that mindset shift. That's something that's very hard. I'm trying to embrace mindset shifts to be more open, to be more authentic about different aspects of my love journey. What is one advice would you have, as you've been through this journey of, it's a bit of a struggle, when you're graduating, you want to get a job, and then you have, as a non-immigrant, trying to find it within a certain timeline. So what kind of a mindset shift practice do you do on a daily basis to be who you are today?
So when I started like 5 years back, I had a lot of limiting beliefs, saying that I can't do this, I don't have an ability to do a PhD. Or even after, while pursuing PhD, it was always the case that am I good fit for this PhD? Am I is this position for me, or am I just occupying someone else's position? So all these thoughts were always there with me. And what are these thoughts are the belief system what we have, and these belief system can come from many aspects of your life. Maybe it can be family, maybe it can be past experiences, or maybe it comes from education. And so these beliefs build up the thoughts. The thoughts are turn into actions, and then action result turn into results. So this is the process what happens in our day-to-day life. And so tackling this beliefs, like the base of the pyramid, is really important in this aspect. So this can be through meditation, journaling, or understanding like what are your limiting beliefs, and what is that thing, one thing which is holding you back from achieving your dreams or achieving your goal, and really honing into that and tackling that. And just thinking, oh, if this limiting belief is not there, then how the situation would I be able to achieve the goal without that, and what can be the ultimate scenario of it. So really honing into the limiting beliefs and tackling that base of the pyramid is really important in any life situation. It is neither PhD or getting a job, but any life situation can be tackled with this.
I like the way you're looking at life, Shivalee, given you are you are part of this younger generation, and you're looking at life in a very open mindset, with a very open mindset. And I think that's very exciting for us to know, you can achieve whatever you set your eyes upon. It's just a matter of how you rewire your brain when challenges like these come unexpected. So
Yeah,
let's
that's true. And I would like to quote here, like, you have to dream achieving that dream before you dream it. It's a quote by APJ Abdul Kalam, and it says that you have to first dream that you have achieved your dream, and then it will be easier for you.
That's awesome. That's how wings are on fire, right? That's how your
Yeah,
dreams take flight. And yeah, it's a good way to remind ourselves of Bharat Ratna, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who's been an inspiration for a lot of,
a
young
lot of
citizens
us.
of
Yeah.
India like us, right? When you look back at your journey, Shivalee, how does it feel being an Asian as a woman of color in this career path of PhD? What are some challenges? What are some opportunities you've seen because of who you are?
I would say that back then when I was applying for PhD, I did not face lot of hindrances while applying, because I guess my parents were standing like a wall again besides me, and they had some comments by the society, like how can you send a girl abroad. And it was 2015. So after my grandfather, I was the first one to leave my home and move to a different country. So maybe they would have faced that, but they did not made that way to me, and I never faced that. But coming here, I see that most of the students doubt themselves, like you're not capable enough with the other students that you can do this. So that doubting of yourself is really critical in doing this PhD, because then PhD is not an easy journey. You have failed experiences or failed experiments and sleepless nights. So being having that mindset or having that mental stability to think that I can do this is really important. And we never speak up, like we think that, oh, this is the opportunity I have got to do my research, and this is the only PhD position I have got, then I should stick with it, even if I have some bad experiences, or even if I'm not enjoying it. The group, the culture, that is really important. So speaking up is also what I would suggest, or I would say to the fellow PhD members, like speak up, doesn't matter, because this will be carried away. Like if you're losing your confidence in the PhD journey, it will take hell lot of time to regain that and then again move forward. So having a community is really necessary in the PhD journey.
That's a great way of looking at things. Having a support system for you, it was your parents, like most of us growing up in the Asian
Yeah.
culture, they protect us from a lot of negativity from the society on, why is she doing this versus, following some of the societal milestones. And I'm glad parents have been very progressive to continue to
Yeah.
debunk the myths that, as a woman, you have the right to your voice in a very dignified way, not to
Yes.
ruffle feathers in the wrong way, but you have a purpose for your life. And if that purpose is to get a PhD, be a podcaster, whatever that is, you go and follow your dreams. And then
Yeah.
having that support system of people who accept you for who you are and then support you in that journey, that's something that I'm very proud of your parents. So convey that to your
Yeah.
parents on our
Thank you.
behalf as well.
Thank you so much.
So, Shivalee, let's talk about communication. That's very crucial. And for most of us in the STEM professional, science, technology, engineering, and math, we focus on the technology, the science, the expert aspects, but we fail to understand that we need to communicate it in the right way so people understand, why we are doing what we are doing. And you're doing it well through Nerdy Minku as part of the illustrations in the science communication field. So tell us more about the behind the scenes story of Nerdy Minku.
Nerdy Minku really was born out of boredom. I was sitting in a conference, and I love doing art. I think I got this genes from my mother. She's a great artist, and I embraced it. Back then in my college or in my school, I also used to conduct summer camps for small children to teach them art and showing them new perspective towards art. But Nerdy Minku arose when I was sitting in a conference, and I just drew a illustration which depicts me with this bun and spectacles and a lab coat, and then it was just a summarization of my day, that I went through all the posters, I collected new ideas, and how can I implement them in my research. And then I just randomly posted it on Instagram. People liked it, people related with her, and for a long time she had no name. And then I started doing illustration for 2 3 blog platforms or blogs. And then the author asked me that what is her name, and then I was brainstorming, oh, what name should I give her. And then Minku is my pet name, where which has only been called by my dad, and he is the only person in this world who can call me Minku. And Nerdy Minku is all about showing the nerdy side of Shivalee. So it is called as Nerdy Minku, and then it can be. It depicts Shivalee in certain way, where how she is in the lab, like she has a lot of to-do lists, she communicates science, she tries to find the work-life balance, and she is struggling to pursue her PhD back then, and or to achieve the research or achieve the results which she is doing.
I love the way you've named Nerdy Minku. And to our listeners, you can follow Shivalee Duduskar on Instagram, so you can see the other side of her as well. And she hosts, live sessions on Instagram. So follow her, and you can follow me, Priyanka Komal, on Instagram as well, so you can get to know the other side of all of us behind the scenes. And we have a couple of live listeners. Let's acknowledge them and feel free to say hello to them, Shivali, as well. And
Yeah.
for the live listeners who've just joined, please drop in a quick hello and the country that you're tuning in from so we can acknowledge you. So we have Satya who's joining us
Hello,
from
Satya, and
India.
thank you for the comments. Yeah.
Yeah, Satya says very interesting and impressive interview. And Satya also says kudos to you, Shivali.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satya, for your kind words as well. So we have a fun rapid fire round for you, Shivali. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right. So you tell us the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following and in one word. The first one being, who's your role model?
Kalpana Chawla.
What does happiness mean to you?
Morning cup of chai.
How do you define success?
The fact that I have completed my to-do list of the day.
Yay, for a lot of us, right? What is one fun thing about Shivali that's exclusive to our CurryUp Leadership Podcast listeners?
Shivali can cook good food.
Hey, that's amazing, right? Doing your PhD and finding the time around it, that's very impressive. All right, so last question. What is your native language and one word to describe yourself in your native language?
So my native language is Marathi, and one word which can describe me is Drudha Nishchay. It is a combination of Sanskrit and Marathi, I guess, but it means determination.
Dhrida Nishchay is a wonderful way to talk about your life journey and the path that you've taken going forward. So thank you so much, Shivali, for being part of our CurryUp Leadership Podcast today. We have another comment here from AJ Atavar who says, thank you for sharing your insights, Shivali.
Thank you so much. It's
Thanks,
my
AJ.
pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks, AJ, for joining us as well. So, Shivali, before we let you go, what is one takeaway that you want to reiterate with our audience?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me as a guest on your podcast. It is a great platform of highlighting the social, highlighting the Asian entrepreneurship, women or men. You're doing a great job, Priyanka. Just keep on doing this. And one takeaway I would say is believe in your dreams and don't give up.
Those are wonderful takeaways for us. So, we have a couple more live listeners who are joining us. So, let's acknowledge them as well. We have Harsha Sastri, who's joining us, who says, Shivali, your insights are great.
Thank you, Harsha.
And Harsha also says, good podcast. Thank you, Harsha. Says, thanks, Priyanka, for the podcast. Thank you so much, Harsha, for being a valuable listener of ours. We have Alan Jose. Hey, Alan. And Alan says, great insights and awesome podcast.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. So
And
these are
it's a
some of
great podcast, Priyanka. Just keep on doing the amazing work you're doing, and finding this time and finding this motivation is really important to keep on continuing.
Thank you so much, Shivali. And thank you so much, Alan, AJ, Satya, Harsha, for joining us. Some of our loyal listeners who always come and support us. So that's my tribe
Yes.
who come every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern for the broadcast. So this has been an amazing episode, but it's kind of hard to let Shivali go so soon. So here's something that we're doing to our fabulous listeners. Shivali and I are going to do an Instagram live. So we're going to talk specifically on some of the key nuggets of wisdom that she shared today with our Instagram community. So that's going to happen this Wednesday. It's going to be at 12 p.m. Eastern, which is 9:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. All you have to do is follow me, Priyanka Komla, and Shivalee Duduskar on her Instagram handle, and then you'll get a notification when we go live. Do you have anything else to share on those lines, Shivali?
Yeah, do join us the live. Maybe we'll have some insights on your path to PhD and some few tips which you can apply immediately in your applications. So do join our live.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll talk about life as well beyond PhD. So we'll delve into a couple more dimensions of Shivali on that Instagram live chat as well. So I'm super excited about that. And before we wrap up today's episode, 3 key takeaways on episode 109 with Shivalee Duduskar, postdoc, researcher, scientific writer, and communicator is one, break your limiting beliefs, facts or myths, I should say, about, hey, I'm not capable of this, I'm not used to this. Break those myths and you'll find your path towards success being more clear. And the second aspect is take time for yourself because your path to PhD is a journey. Be it any specific field, you got to take time off for yourself and enjoy those moments. And three, communications is very critical for people in the STEM profession. So find ways to speak up, get your voice heard, no matter what the situation is. So those are three wonderful takeaways that I'm so happy and inspired to share with our listeners. So Shivali, we're going to talk about subscribing to our podcast on YouTube and any podcast streaming platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, but we're going to do it in Marathi. That's what Shivali has promised she's going to teach me on this episode. So how do I thank my listeners in Marathi and ask them to subscribe?
तुमच्या सगळ्यांचे आभार की तुम्ही करिअप लिडरशिप पॉडकास्ट ऐकता आणि मी तुम्हाला विनंती करते की तुम्ही ह्याला लाईक आणि सबस्क्राईब करा आणि प्रियंकाचे सगळे एपिसोड्स ऐका. So thank you.
Thank you. That was very sweet and cute as well. So I've picked up a little bit of Marathi, but that was Marathi language. I thought it's a nice way to explore languages on our show as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to read a couple of final comments and then we'll wrap up the show. So Harsha says, break your limiting thoughts, take time for yourself, communicate loud. Those are good inputs. And Harsha is also saying namaskar. So he's picked up some of our local languages as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And do join us on our next episode that's going to happen every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. So subscribe to me, Priyanka Komla. On LinkedIn, you can follow me as well as the CurryUp Leadership Podcast page. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, give it a like and a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a subscribe there as well. And for all our podcast lovers, give us a like, review, rating to help us understand how this podcast is helping you become a better version of yourself. Until our Instagram chat that's going to happen on Wednesday. If you're there on Instagram, follow us there. This is your host, Priyanka Komla, signing off from CurryUp Leadership Podcast, a podcast to spotlight purpose-driven Asian leaders making an impact. Bye, Shivalee. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Priyanka. Thank you so much.